Hey guys, I'm Anna.
And I'm Brian.
And we are Those Annoying Vegans. And today we wanted to discuss what we thought was going to be a fairly non-controversial meme that we uploaded a little while ago on Instagram.
If you've been following this channel for some time, then you know that we do not condone vegetarian diets for ethical reasons, because vegetarian diets cause needless suffering and death, just like meat-eating diets. They involve dairy and eggs, and sometimes even fish, depending on the vegetarian. So vegetarian diets are responsible for needless suffering, enslavement, torture, mutilation, death, all the same things as a meat-eating diet.
Now, on the surface, it may seem like vegetarian diets are somehow more moral than meat-eating diets, but when we look at these industries, we can see that that is clearly not the case. Now, when we posted this meme, we got an unbelievable amount of conversation on our page, much of it coming from offended, guess who? Vegetarians. And sometimes vegetarian apologist vegans who also believe that being vegetarian is ethically better than eating meat.
So that brings us to the whole point of why we even made this video. We're going to answer the question, why vegetarian diets are dangerous. Whereas meat eaters know full well that in order to eat meat, you have to kill an animal. So they know full well that their diets cause needless suffering, death, torture, mutilation, all the same stuff. But vegetarian diets, unfortunately, have this allure of being more ethical. And so many otherwise good-hearted people will stop eating meat because they don't want to fund that animal abuse, but they will continue to eat dairy and eggs. Now, this is largely because dairy and eggs are more of an indirect line. Like, obviously, the flesh of an animal is a very direct line. You have to kill an animal to get the animal's flesh. But dairy and eggs, it doesn't seem like as direct of a line, but in fact, they cause just as much suffering as eating meat does,
if not more. For a great breakdown on the egg and dairy industries, we cannot recommend highly enough Aaron Janice's videos on YouTube, Dairy is Scary, and What's Wrong with Eggs. But here's a quick breakdown. In the dairy industry, bulls are masturbated by human beings, and cows are forcefully inseminated in order to ensure that they remain perpetually pregnant in order to produce milk. The reason is because cows, just like all mammals, including humans, only produce milk when they are pregnant. Now, this milk is intended for the cow's baby. Just like the breast milk of a human being is intended for that human being's baby, the breast milk of a cat is intended for her kittens. Logic. Now, when the baby is born, that baby will be kidnapped from his or her mother's side, usually within 48 hours. As sentient beings, that cows are, they will usually cry in agony and fear for each other. It is a very traumatic experience for them to be separated when the bond is so strong. If the calf is female, she will most likely end up back in the dairy industry. Sometimes she will also end up cut up for veal. If the calf is male, he will most likely end up getting slaughtered for veal as well, or sometimes even shot at birth and discarded as waste, because for some farmers it is cheaper than raising the calf for veal.
These three are male, so they're considered waste.
There you are. There you are. There you are.
Now, the life of a dairy cow is usually around 4 to 5 years, which means that she will have had, on average, 4 to 5 children stolen away from her repeatedly. At that point, the cow is considered spent when her dairy production slows to a point where she's no longer profitable enough to the farmer to keep feeding and giving water and taking care of and all that. Now, guess where she ends up? At the exact same slaughterhouse where cows raised for beef end up. And if that weren't enough, the bulls that are simply raised for their semen, they are also killed when their semen is deemed no longer viable. Of course, we, the human oppressors, decide that. We decide when a dairy cow's milk production is no longer profitable, and we decide when a bull's semen is no longer viable. We do a lot of deciding for other sentient beings.
As for the egg industry, hens have been genetically modified to lay far more eggs than they would in nature. Egg-laying hens have been selectively bred to lay about an egg every single day. These birds live in horrific conditions. Their eggs are stolen from them every single day, depleting their bodies of valuable minerals and nutrients and never letting them replenish. Now, what happens to a bird when she is no longer profitable as an egg layer? Egg laying slows after about 18 months, and at 18 months, those hens end up at the slaughterhouse and they get chopped up for chicken nuggets. And let's not forget what happens to male chicks. Male chicks born into an egg-laying industry have no use. They're considered a waste product. They are killed on their first day of life, literally out of the shell. You can see the shell, the eggshells, going down into the macerator with the baby chicks. Or they are gassed alive, or they are suffocated in plastic bags or foam. Millions and millions of baby chicks who are killed just for being male.
And as for fish, well, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Fish are animals. Not sure why fish are considered vegetarian. Yeah. I guess it depends on the vegetarian, but fish are killed by the trillions. We drag these big nets through the ocean, and we want to catch fish like tuna, but we also end up catching dolphins and sea turtles and sharks and other animals, and they get mutilated from the nets, and we just don't care. We just drag these nets through the ocean because people want to eat tuna sandwiches. Fish are sentient living beings. They feel pain, just like pigs, chickens, and cows. This is all pretty standard.
And so many fish are murdered that they can't even count them in numbers. They have to count them in tons.
Now, we got many comments on this meme claiming that vegetarians are at least on their way to a more ethical lifestyle. You know, they're vegetarian now, they're on their way to veganism, but of course this is an assumption. You know, vegetarians do not always go vegetarian for ethical reasons. It is a diet, after all, it's not a lifestyle. So vegetarians can go vegetarian because they want to lose weight. They can go vegetarian because...
Well, I have to say that was very hard for me to do as a vegetarian because dairy is the number one reason I had weight on me.
Yeah.
I dropped dairy and 15 pounds disappeared and never came back.
Sometimes they go vegetarian because they have allergies, or sometimes...
Although I have to say dairy is the number one cause of allergies out there, so I don't know. This is what vegetarians say.
Yeah, so eating breast milk that was designed by nature to be filled with, you know, the proper hormones for a growing calf. We put that into our bodies, and then we wonder why we get fat and we get acne and we have allergies and all these other hormonal problems.
It's a huge mystery.
Some vegetarians simply don't like the taste or the texture of meat, and, you know, other vegetarians, they go vegetarian for reasons.
Yeah, it's a fad.
A health thing is comical, obviously, because as you said, dairy, number one source of saturated fat in the American diet. Eggs are also the number one source of dietary cholesterol in the American diet. So
my cholesterol was the highest it's ever been as a vegetarian. It actually climbed higher than when I was a meat eater.
Yeah, because vegetarians usually up the cheese and they up the eggs.
Yeah, that's what I did.
When they stop eating meat. Sure, some vegetarians may go vegetarian for ethical reasons, as you did. And perhaps when they are shown the truth about the egg and the dairy industries, then their eyes will be opened and then they will be on their way to a vegan lifestyle. But for a person to stay committed to a vegetarian diet, once they know the truth behind dairy and eggs, that is not an ethical decision.
You know that you are still causing suffering, if not more. So then you keep going? Why?
Some vegetarians say that they're doing enough.
Yeah,
or that,
they settle into it.
It's enough. I'm reducing my contribution to animal suffering, so that's good enough. I'm doing better than most people. I'm doing better than nothing, so it's okay.
We as vegan activists have watched with our own eyes as pregnant dairy cows are marched to their deaths in a slaughterhouse. Sometimes these cows will be pregnant when they arrive at the slaughterhouse because dairy cows are reimpregnated every year. So dairy cows sent to slaughter are usually at various stages of their pregnancy. Farmers don't bother to check. They get more money if the cow is heavier, various reasons. But sometimes these calves are born at these slaughterhouses. We have seen that too. So multiple deaths are involved in the production of milk. Now, if you want to turn away and put a blindfold on, that doesn't change the reality. So why are vegetarian diets dangerous? because they convince people that they are doing something moral.
It's nearly impossible to determine whether a vegetarian or a meat eater causes more or less death. As we said, death occurs in all of these industries. Multiple deaths occur in dairy and eggs. The individual animal's death occurs in meat. It's really hard to tell who causes more death, but let's just grant that the vegetarian diet causes less death. Now let's replace the victim. Is less child abuse moral? Is less spousal abuse moral? Is less racism or less homophobia moral? Is the goal to do less of something that we know to be immoral, or is the goal to stop it altogether?
But as we've mentioned, there is arguably more suffering in dairy and eggs because not only are the animals enslaved for life and exploited for their reproductive abilities, but they are also killed in the end. Still killed in the end, just like the animals raised for meat. Lastly, another comment that we received quite often was from teenagers. Teenagers living at home with their parents, being forced to eat dairy and eggs against their will. To this we would say, well, we're not necessarily talking about you. If you are physically being made to eat things that you are morally opposed to, that's obviously not your fault. We encourage anyone, though, to start a conversation with any family members regarding veganism. But ultimately, if parents are forcing you to participate in needless violence, that can't really be blamed on you. Obviously, we would encourage you to live a vegan lifestyle once you are no longer under your parents' roof. At a certain point, you'll be an adult capable of making your own decisions. However, the way you respond to this information is also very telling because we understand that you're frustrated, but sometimes it seems like you're frustrated with us for presenting the truth. You don't seem interested or curious. You don't ask questions. You could ask us, like, how do I talk to my parents? What can I do? But for the most part, it's been, you guys are being judgmental, you guys are being divisive. There are other ways that we can respond to this information that we're presenting. And that might be, whoa, that's horrible. I didn't know that. Or, yes, I knew that, I know that, and I feel terrible. But my parents, look within and really see where you stand on this issue.
Yeah, a lot of people wanted to tell us that by putting out there this message that vegetarianism is unethical, we are somehow hindering the vegan movement by not being, accepting or inclusive. We're being too extreme, blah, blah, blah. But we have received countless direct messages from, guess who? Vegetarians who now want to change. They didn't know this information, now it's been shared with them, and now they want to begin their vegan journey. And it's because of this information that we're sharing. So we're not going to be doormat vegans. We're not going to just sit here idly and hope that people change. We're going to share with people the truth because that is what the animals deserve.
And what you do with that truth is up to you, ultimately. Yeah. People do like to say, well, I was going to go vegan, but you guys are so mean. Why would I want to be like you?
Yeah.
You don't have to be like us. You can just go vegan for the animals. Everyone does their activism a different way, and we use humor, we use graphic footage, because every single type of activism impacts different types of people. So that's why we think vegetarian diets are dangerous. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Did this video upset you? If it did, why? Did you know these things about dairy and eggs? And if you did, do you feel motivated to change? If not, why not? We are always open to conversation on the channel, so let us know your thoughts below.
And if you enjoy our content, if you get something out of these videos, if you enjoy what we do, please consider becoming a Patreon patron. Our Patreon patrons, they help us with our activism supremely. We would not be able to do everything that we are able to do without them.
One of the ways you've recently helped us, dear patrons on Patreon, is you helped us get Adeline spayed and microchipped, and we got her vaccinated and we got her tested for FIV and FELV before adopting her out to our dear friends Brandon and Jonica at Roots Like a Tree on YouTube. If you haven't checked them out, please do. They're wonderful activists here in LA. So thank you for that. We definitely want to help as many animals as possible, and you guys definitely help us do that. Also, you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram and Etsy. We are very active on Instagram. If you have not yet followed us on Instagram, please make sure to do so. You get daily updates practically on what we're doing. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye. Betty, are you stuck?
Yeah.
Hold on. Hold on. I can make it.
Betty Bird. I love you too, my angel.
There
Come
we go.
this way.
There we go. Yay, Betty! Yes.
I love you too.
You're